My bipolar grandma treated me like I didn't exist while spoiling my younger sister. Now that I'm successful, everyone wants me to reconcile with her like nothing happened. Growing up, I was never the favorite, not even close. My younger sister Ashley was everything to my maternal grandma. She was the golden child, the baby, the one who could do no wrong. Me, I was tolerated at best. It started early. Holidays, birthdays, random weekends. Ashley always got something special. Matching outfits, new dolls, tickets to shows. I got hand-me-downs. Or nothing. I remember once getting a toothbrush in my stocking while Ashley opened some expensive necklace she'd been eyeing. Grandma laughed like it was some big inside joke. Everyone else just smiled awkwardly and moved on. I tried for years to not let it get to me, to make sense of it. People would say Grandma was just quirky, or that she was old-fashioned, or that her bipolar disorder made her act out sometimes and she didn't mean it. But I wasn't stupid. I could tell the difference between someone forgetting a birthday and someone deliberately ignoring your existence while fawning over your sibling. I never caused trouble. I got good grades, I was respectful, I helped out. But no matter what I did, I always felt like I was on the outside looking in, like I was just some extra kid who tagged along. My mom would say I was too sensitive, or that Grandma means well, but she never actually stood up for me. Not once. Ashley, to her credit, didn't really rub it in growing up, but she didn't exactly question it either. She liked being the favorite. Who wouldn't? As we got older, she and Grandma only got closer, and I learned to stop expecting anything from either of them. The breaking point for me was Ashley's engagement party a few years ago. I had flown in from out of state, where I'd just landed a promotion. Big step up. I was proud, and dumb enough to think I might actually be seen differently now. Instead, the first thing Grandma said to me loudly, in front of a group of people, was that I always had to make everything about me and my work, and that I don't know how to relax and let others have input. I hadn't even said anything about my job. Someone else brought it up, but it didn't matter. The room got quiet and I just stood there, embarrassed, hurt, exhausted. I didn't even stay the night. I got a hotel and left early the next morning. That was it for me. I stopped answering calls. I skipped holidays. I unfollowed people on social media. For the first time in my life, I felt some peace. Not being around them was like stepping out of a room that had been slowly suffocating me for decades. Now, Grandma's health is declining. She's in her 80s and has had a few hospital visits recently. Nothing sudden or shocking, just the slow, drawn-out kind of aging that makes people start talking about final goodbyes. And now, of course, the pressure campaign is on. My mom has been calling more often. Ashley texted last week saying, "It would mean a lot to everyone if I came to visit." They're both acting like this is some noble opportunity for me to make peace. Like the last 30 years were just a misunderstanding we can tidy up before Grandma dies. I asked my mom what exactly I'm supposed to be making peace with, and she said something about how Grandma wasn't always in control of how she acted, and how we all make mistakes, but that's just it. There's never been any acknowledgement, no apology, no conversation. Just this expectation that I'm supposed to act like none of it ever happened. It's not even really about forgiveness for me. It's the way they're all pretending the past never existed, that I'm being difficult or cruel for remembering it. I didn't invent those memories. I lived them. I've lived with them. And yeah, maybe I'm still angry. Maybe I haven't healed. But why is that my problem to fix now? Why is it always on me to be the bigger person? Why am I the one being told to show up and be gracious and pretend that someone who hurt me deeply deserves a soft landing? Sometimes I wonder if it's even about Grandma at all, or if it's about how they want to look to other people. Like having the whole family together again, even just once, lets them pretend it was never broken. That they didn't ignore years of favoritism, that they weren't complicit in making me feel like I was disposable. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. Part of me feels guilty for staying away. I'm not heartless. I don't want to regret not seeing her before she dies. But another part of me knows I've already grieved this relationship a long time ago. And that part of me is tired of feeling like I owe people something just because they share my DNA. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Being asked to forgive someone who never even admitted they did anything wrong, to show up for people who only notice me when I don't do what they expect, to pretend decades of being ignored and dismissed didn't happen. I haven't said yes, I haven't said no, but I know one thing: if I do go, it won't be for them, and it definitely won't be because I've magically moved on. I just wish for once someone would ask how it felt to be the kid who didn't matter, not how it feels now to be the adult who won't play along. Update 1. Okay. I'm you to get shitted on here, but it didn't end as bad as I thought, so I gave in right. Not because I had some change of heart or saw the light or whatever sentimental spin people like to put on stuff like this. I was tired, sue me, tired of the calls, tired of Ashley's little jabs, tired of my mom asking if I'd be able to live with myself if grandma died before I made peace. They made it sound like I was some monster holding a grudge just to be difficult, not someone reacting to literal decades of being treated like wallpaper. So I went. Just to say I went. Just to shut everyone up. I figured I'd sit there for 20 minutes, get passive-aggressively insulted like usual, then leave and never come back. But that's not what happened. She opened the door herself. That already threw me. She looked smaller but still sharp. A part of me expected some dramatic change, but no, it was just her. Still her. And here's where it gets weird. She was nice. She was nice. WTF. Not overly sweet or fake smiley, just normal. She asked how I was doing, asked about work, made a dry joke about lawyers being the only people who win arguments by talking slower. I sat there waiting for the other shoe to drop, but it never did. No backhanded comments, no comparisons to Ashley, no staring through me like I wasn't even in the room. It was like I was talking to someone who had no idea she spent my entire childhood pretending I didn't exist, like she just discovered she had another grandchild. I kept my guard up the whole time, but I also didn't leave. The visit lasted about an hour, and when I got in my car afterward, I didn't feel the usual buzzing in my chest that I always got after seeing her. No anger, confusion, yes, and just this weird feeling like, what the hell was that? I didn't tell anyone right away. I didn't want the family circling in with their "see, she's changed" garbage, or worse, acting like my visit erased everything. But a few days later, my mom texted me a heart emoji and said she told me you came by. Then Ashley followed it up with, "Glad you're finally being the bigger person," as if that's what this was about. I don't know why I went back again, but I did. The second time felt just as strange. She remembered details I told her about work, asked about the dog I mentioned in passing last time, and even offered me one of those old lacy butter cookies she used to hoard just for Ashley. It was small, but it didn't go unnoticed. I kept showing up, not every week, but enough that it became a thing. Sometimes we just sat in silence while she crocheted or read the paper. Other times we talked. Still no mention of the past, no apology. And I wasn't going to bring it up, not yet. I wanted to see if this was a phase or a new act in whatever play she was staging. But every time I went, she was just calm, human, present. It got harder to keep my resentment as sharp as it used to be. And that pissed me off a little, honestly. I'd spent years building this armor to keep her out, to stop her from getting under my skin again. But now that she wasn't doing any of the old things, now that she was asking me things about me, it was like I didn't know where to aim anymore. I wasn't forgiven because she never apologized. I wasn't healed because we never addressed the damage. But I also wasn't angry all the time anymore, and that confused the hell out of me. Then Ashley started acting like everything was great, like we were all one big happy family now. She made a comment during brunch about how we can finally take family photos again, and I had to excuse myself. That's when it hit me. To her, my visits meant the issue was over, not resolved, just done. As if the minute I stopped keeping my distance, everyone else could go back to pretending nothing ever happened, that grandma never froze me out at Christmas, that she didn't act like I was invisible unless she needed to scold someone, that she didn't call me too intense or too serious every time I opened my mouth. I guess all of that just gets erased once you're in the same room again. But I wasn't there to perform for them. I wasn't doing it to be noble or forgive and forget. I went because I was curious, because I wanted to see who this woman was now, that time and illness had softened her. And I stayed because, for the first time in my life, she treated me like a person instead of an inconvenience. Still, there's a part of me that's uneasy. She never apologized, never said a word about how things used to be, and I don't think she will. That part of her, the pride, the distance, it's still there. But so is something else, something that feels almost like regret, not spoken, not spelled out, just there in the way she watches me now. in the way she makes sure to say goodbye when I leave, instead of disappearing into the next room like she used to. I don't know if that's enough. I don't know if it's too late, but I also know I'm not doing this for Ashley, or my mom, or anyone else who wants to slap a happy ending on this. I'm doing it because for once, it feels like she actually sees me, and that's more than I ever thought I'd get. I still haven't let my guard down completely. I don't trust easy, and I'm not going to pretend everything's fine just because she stopped being cruel. But the visits feel real. She's not playing favorites anymore, at least not with me. And weirdly, I find myself looking forward to them. So, yeah, maybe it didn't go how I expected. I didn't get an apology, I didn't get closure, but I also didn't get shut out or dismissed. I got something quiet and strange and maybe a little fragile, but it feels like something. Whether it's enough in the long run, I don't know. But for now, it's more than I had before, and I'm keeping it on my terms. Update 2. It's been months since that first visit back. And I won't lie, I expected it to fall apart fast. I figured she'd slip back into her old habits, or maybe I'd just get tired of pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. But somehow, neither of those things happened. We didn't talk about the past, not really. She never brought it up, and I didn't push. At first, that felt like a cop-out. Now I think I understand why. Grandma just stopped being the version of herself that used to hurt me. She didn't suddenly become warm and fuzzy, and she definitely didn't start treating me like Ashley 2.0, but she showed up, consistently. She'd call just to say she was thinking of me. She'd ask about my work, and actually remember the things I said. Once, she mailed me a book of short stories with a sticky note on a page she liked because it reminded her of a story I told her. Another time, she sent me a clipping from a local paper that mentioned a company I used to work for. Nothing life-changing, but for her, it was everything I'd ever wanted and never got. At first, I thought I was just relieved she wasn't being awful. Then I realized I actually liked talking to her. I didn't feel like I had to perform. I didn't feel small around her anymore. Maybe because I stopped caring whether she liked me, or maybe because for the first time she didn't act like I was an inconvenience for existing. We started having lunch together every couple of weeks. She'd let me ramble about my work, and she'd listen without making it sound like I was showing off. That was new. She'd ask questions, offer little comments, sometimes tease in a way that felt normal. She even made a couple of sly jokes about my mom that made me laugh way too hard. Once she said something about being too old to lie anymore, and I remember wondering if that was her way of admitting how things used to be. She never followed it up. I didn't ask. I wouldn't say I forgave her. That word feels too clean, but I stopped waiting for her to fix something she couldn't or wouldn't name. She never apologized, and maybe that should bother me more than it does. But I've spent my whole life dragging a boulder behind me, hoping someone would finally say, "You're right, that was unfair." I guess I realized I didn't need to hear it anymore to feel like I deserved better. There's still some part of me that stays braced, like I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop. But months went by, and it didn't. So I stopped holding my breath. And of course, now that I've let my guard down a bit, everyone else is acting like everything's magically better. My mom started talking to me like I should be grateful, like I finally came to my senses. Ashley, on the other hand, is being weird. Polite but distant, like she's watching me from the corner of her eye, waiting to see what my angle is. I overheard her say to my aunt that I only went back because the guilt got to me, and I wanted to laugh. Guilt? Number exhaustion maybe. Curiosity, definitely. But I didn't go back because I felt bad. I went back because I wanted to know if she still had claws. Turns out she didn't, or at least she put them away. What nobody seems to get is that I didn't come crawling back. I'm not here because I'm lonely, or desperate, or craving approval. I built a life without any of them in it. A good life. This isn't about trying to rewrite the past. It's just a different now than it used to be. One I didn't expect. I still remember how it felt growing up invisible, watching Ashley get doted on while I was background noise. I remember birthday parties where Grandma forgot to bring me anything, Christmases where she made pointed comments about how I wasn't into girly things anyway. I remember the time she looked at a painting I made and said, "At least you're good at math." That stuff doesn't vanish. It just stops controlling the room. I think what's hardest to admit is that I started enjoying the relationship we had now more than I thought I would. It felt easy, familiar in a way that wasn't painful, and for the first time, it felt like she saw me as a whole person, not just the disappointing version of my sister. That was the real shock. She's still sick, and we all know it's not going to get better. She has good days and bad days, but she's stable for now. Some days, I think maybe she knew she messed up and just didn't know how to say it. Maybe she thought that if she could just be better, it would speak for itself. Or maybe she was just scared and didn't want to die alone. I don't know, and I don't think I need to. What I do know is that for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm not the one doing all the emotional heavy lifting. That matters more than I expected it to. I've stopped needing her to be anything she's not, and weirdly, that's made room for something more honest to grow. If you'd told me a year ago that I'd be visiting my grandmother every week and actually looking forward to it, I would have laughed in your face. But here we are. It's not perfect. It's not even fixed. But it's real, and that's more than I thought I'd get. I don't think I'll ever be the kind of person who forgets what happened. I'm just not dragging it into every conversation anymore. It's still there, like scar tissue. But scars don't hurt the same way. They just remind you of what you survived. So yeah, we're close now. Closer than I thought we could be, even if she never said sorry. And maybe that's okay. Update 3. Well, this update is going to be hard to write, but unfortunately, my grandmother died quietly in her sleep. No drama, no emergency. Just a phone call from my mom that morning saying, "She's gone." That was it. No emotion in her voice. No suggestion we talk or even check in on each other. Just the facts. It was weird, and I didn't know how to feel. I sat with it for a long time. Longer than I expected. I cried, but not the way I thought I would. It wasn't about the finality of death. It was about how short our reconciliation was. How I finally got to feel like she saw me, and then it ended. I didn't get a full chapter, just a page or two at the end of the book. I thought the grief would be the hardest part. It wasn't. The funeral plan started right away, and I quickly realized I wasn't invited to be a part of any of it. Ashley took over everything. My mom backed her up. They didn't ask what I thought, didn't include me in any decisions. I wasn't surprised, but it still stung. They picked out the photo for the memorial cards, the flowers, the music, everything. I found out when everyone else did, through a forwarded message with the date and time. At the service, it got worse. I was sat in a random side pew, not with the family. My name wasn't mentioned once by the pastor, even though Ashley and my cousins got called out for being such a comfort to her in her last days. No one introduced me to the distant relatives who came. I got a couple of vague nods, but mostly people just kind of avoided me, like I didn't belong there. After the service, I stood outside waiting for my mom to say something. She walked right past me. Ashley gave me a weird half smile that said more than words could. I didn't stay long after that. I didn't understand what I'd done wrong. We'd made peace. She'd asked for me. We had something. So why was I suddenly being treated like an outsider again? The answer came a few days later. My cousin texted me out of the blue and asked if it was true if Grandma really left me everything. I didn't know what she meant. I hadn't been told anything about a will. No one contacted me. But sure enough, a day later I got a call from Grandma's attorney. He asked to meet. I went in not expecting much. I thought maybe she'd left me a necklace or a book. Instead, he handed me a sealed envelope and a breakdown of what she left behind. A small trust, some savings, and a few personal items, not millions, but more than I ever expected. And all of it left to me. There was a letter in the envelope. Short, typed, and signed in her shaky handwriting. "I didn't give you what you deserved while I was alive. This is a start. You made something out of nothing, and I was wrong to make you feel like you were lesser than your sister. I hope this helps you build even more." That was it. No sorry, but also not nothing. And just like that, everything clicked. The weird coldness from my family, the distance, the sudden shift from "it's so good you made up with her" to pretending I wasn't in the room. They think I came back for the money. They think I manipulated her in her final months, got in her ear, and convinced her to change her will. That's the only explanation that makes sense to them. Because why else would I be the one who got anything? Ashley was the golden child. My mom was the caregiver. I was the afterthought, until I wasn't. The thing is, I didn't even know she had money. We never talked about it. I didn't ask for anything. I just showed up. We talked about books, old TV shows, her weird obsession with vintage radios. We didn't fix the past, but we laughed. We shared something. I thought it meant something to them, too. Clearly I was wrong. Ashley hasn't said anything directly. But a mutual friend told me she's been making comments stuff like, "Must be nice to cry all the way to the bank," and "Some people know how to play the long game." My mom won't return my calls. One of my aunts asked if I felt good about how it turned out, with a tone that made it clear what she thought the answer should be. I've spent the last few weeks spinning. I keep replaying everything. Did I say something that sounded greedy? Did I make it seem like I was only visiting because I wanted something? But I know I didn't. I was hesitant. I took my time. I waited until I felt safe around her. I didn't want her money. I wanted to stop feeling invisible. And now that she's gone, I feel more invisible than ever. It hurts in a way I didn't expect. Not because I want them to praise me or say I did the right thing, but because even now, they're twisting it into something ugly, like the only reason I could possibly be worth anything is if I took it. I wish I could talk to her again, just one more time, not even to ask about the will. I just want to know if she really meant what she said in that letter, that I wasn't imagining the shift, that I didn't just fill in the blanks with what I wanted to believe. But I guess I'll never really know. All I have is what we shared in those last few months, and the few lines she left behind. I haven't decided what I'm doing with the money yet. Part of me wants to give it away just to shut everyone up, but another part of me, the tired, angry, fed-up part, knows that wouldn't change anything. They'd still think what they think. They'd still hate me for getting something they feel entitled to. So I'm sitting with it. All of it. The grief, the guilt, the weird relief, the tiny bit of validation that came too late, and the mountain of judgment that followed. I didn't ask for this, but I'm not going to apologize for being chosen for once. Let them be mad. Let them talk. I know the truth, and maybe that has to be enough. Final update. I didn't respond when my mom called the first time after the will reading, or the second, or the 10th. I saw the messages come in her voice breaking, telling me how I should have known better than to accept that money, how it wasn't about the money, it was about what it looked like. I didn't respond to Ashley either. She tried to be colder, more composed, said I should have told them ahead of time if Grandma was planning to do that. As if I was supposed to know. As if I orchestrated any of it. That's the part that really got to me. They truly think I came back just to get something. That everything I did, the visits, the late-night calls, the errands I ran when Grandma couldn't get up the stairs anymore was all some long game for a check. That says more about them than it ever will about me. I kept waiting for someone in the family to step up, to say, "Actually, I saw how much time she spent with Grandma. I saw how she changed around her. I saw them laughing." But no one did. I don't think anyone wanted to. It's easier to stick to their version of events. That I swooped in during Grandma's final chapter, made her feel guilty, and walked out with a payday. So I made the decision to stop explaining myself. Not out of pride, honestly. It felt more like survival. There was no point in trying to rewrite their narrative when they'd already decided who I was. And maybe they always had. I kept the money, not out of spite, but because Grandma made that choice. She didn't give me closure in words, but she gave me something tangible. I didn't earn it by being perfect. I earned it by finally being seen, even if it was too late to say it out loud. I took a portion of what she left and set up a small scholarship fund in her name at my old college. It's not massive, but it'll cover a few semesters for someone studying social work or psychology, something that might have helped her if she'd had more support earlier in life. I didn't publicize it. I didn't tell the family. It's not a performance. It just felt like the right thing to do. The rest, I've put away. I'm not buying a car or a house or some "look what I got" type of purchase. It's just there, quietly, like the part of me she finally recognized. As for my mom and Ashley, they're blocked. Completely. I didn't send a goodbye text. I didn't warn them. I just removed myself. There's no point trying to rebuild bridges when the other side is busy throwing matches. I looked around after the funeral and realized something brutal. I was the only one who had changed. Everyone else just reset to the default. I stopped begging for approval, and they interpreted that as arrogance. I stopped justifying my existence, and they decided that meant I thought I was better than them. They didn't want reconciliation. They wanted me quiet and in my place. The moment I stepped out of that role, I became a problem. I spent so much of my life trying to earn a seat at a table that was never meant for me. When Grandma and I got close again, I thought maybe things were shifting. Maybe if she could change even a little, then there was hope for the rest. But now I see it clearly. That moment with Grandma was ours, and it doesn't have to be shared or validated by anyone else. Grieving her has been strange. It's not just losing her, it's grieving what we could have had if the timeline had been different, if she'd seen me sooner, if I'd spoken up sooner. But we had something at the end, and it was real. That's more than I ever thought I'd get. I'm okay now, or I'm getting there. I've got people in my life who do show up without strings, friends who don't make me feel like I have to earn basic kindness, a job where I'm respected, a partner who sees me clearly, even when I'm a mess, and that's what I'm choosing to focus on. Sometimes healing doesn't look like forgiveness or grand reunions. Sometimes it's just drawing a hard line and walking away without looking back. I didn't write this post to get sympathy. I think I wrote it to hear myself say out loud that I'm not the villain in their story just because I stopped being their scapegoat. I made peace with Grandma, and I made peace with the part of me that kept chasing love from people who didn't know how to give it. They can think whatever they want. I'm done explaining myself. Rest well to my grandmother. We didn't have a good long relationship, but she still tried, even if it was at the end. I appreciate her and just wish we had more time.